Mysterious magnetic pulse discovered on Mars September 22, 2019. At midnight on Mars, the red planet's magnetic field sometimes begins to pulse in ways never before seen. The cause is currently unknown. Mysterious magnetic pulse discovered on Mars InSight probe. Credit, NASA. This is just one of the impressive preliminary findings of NASA's first robotic geophysicist, the InSight landing module. Since landing in November 2018, this spacecraft has gathered information to help scientists better understand the bowels and evolution of the neighboring planet, how to measure the temperature of its upper crust, record the sounds of alien earthquakes, and measure force and direction of the planet's magnetic field. As revealed during some presentations this week at a joint meeting of the European Planetary Science Congress and the American Astronomical Society, early data suggest that the magnetic machinations of Mars are wonderfully crazy. In addition to the odd magnetic pulsations, the landing module data shows that the Martian crust is much more magnetic than scientists expected. In addition, the spacecraft landed on a very peculiar electrically conductive layer, about 4 kilometers thick, well below the planet's surface. It is too early to say for sure, but there is a chance that this layer could represent a global reservoir of liquid water. If these results are valid, a liquid region on this scale on modern Mars has huge implications for past and present life potential. We are getting a view of the magnetic history of Mars in ways we have never done before, says Paul Byrne, a planetary geologist at North Carolina State University who was not involved in the work. The same mineral zoo that exists on Earth exists on Mars, says Robert Lillis, a planetary space physicist at the University of California, Berkeley, who did not participate in the new research. The orbiter detected the magnetism of the red planet 160 to 400 kilometers above the surface and found that its magnetic field of the crust is 10 times stronger than Earth's one measured at the same height above the surface. This suggests that once Mars also had a large global magnetic field. Midnight Mysteries. The InSight magnetometer, which was first placed on the Martian surface, gave scientists the best view they had ever had of the magnetic field of the crust, and this caused a shock. The magnetic field near the robot was about 20 times stronger than the one predicted in past orbital measurements. Perhaps even more intriguing, InSight also found that the magnetic field of the crust near its location oscillated occasionally. This oscillation is known as magnetic pulsation, explains Matthew Fillingham, space physicist at the University of California, Berkeley, and a member of the InSight scientific team. These pulses are fluctuations in the strength or direction of the magnetic field, and are not entirely uncommon. Many of them happen on Earth and Mars, triggered by upper atmospheric chaos. The action of the solar wind unfolds in the magnetic bubbles of the planets, among other things. What is strange is that these Martian oscillations happen at midnight local time, as if responding to the demands of an invisible night timer. InSight is near the equator of Mars, and at the same geographical position as Earth at this time of night. You don't see these kinds of magnetic pulses. Nocturnal pulsations on Earth tend to occur at higher latitudes and are linked to northern and southern auroras. At the moment, those on Mars do not have a clear source, but scientists have at least one suspect in mind. Although it no longer has a powerful global magnetic field, Mars is surrounded by a weak magnetic bubble created as the solar wind interacts with its thin atmosphere. This bubble, in turn, is compressed by the magnetic field of the solar wind, making part of the bubble assume a tail shape. At midnight, the InSight sight on Mars is aligned with this tail, and as it passes, the tail may be tearing the magnetic field from the surface like a guitar string. Splashing water. It is unclear how long surface water bodies have persisted in lakes, rivers and even oceans in the past of Mars, but there is some evidence that the subsoil today contains salty reservoirs. The crust of Mars also gets hotter as you go deeper, and given the strong evidence of widespread ice on Mars, it is reasonable to think that there are also underground aquifers of liquid water. But the devil is in the details, and all the other causes of such signs have yet to be ruled out, says Brain. The InSight probe has a drill bit, but can dig only about 4.5 meters below the surface. So scientists will have to find other ways, perhaps through future missions on Mars, to test the water layer theory. Dave Brain, researcher for atmospheric and space physics at the University of Colorado, not involved in the work, says that if the existence of this Martian aquifer is finally verified or rejected, the invaluable nature of InSight measurements, including magnetic ones, is already clear. Even rooted in one place on Elysium Planitia, This robotic emissary is beginning to dig up all sorts of buried Martian wonders.